the story of the three poor brothers. I'm going to tell you a beautiful story. It's about three poor brothers with empty pockets, but huge hearts. Their only treasure was a giant pear tree, whose branches seemed to reach the sky. But this was not just any pear tree. Its golden pears shone like they were painted by the sun, juicy and perfect. Every day, one of the brothers took care of it with devotion, turning between the oldest, the middle, and the youngest. For them, taking care of that tree was more than a task. It was a sacred act. What they didn't know was that God up there was watching them very closely. And God, likes to taste hearts before giving blessings. So he sent his angel, but the angel did not arrive with trumpets or bright wings. None of that. He came down dressed as an old man, a poor old man with a tunic made of braids and an expression of fatigue that could break your soul. It was a hot day, one of those that melt your brain. The older brother was sitting in the shade of the pear tree, scratching his head and counting the pears as if they were coins. Suddenly, he saw an old man, bent over and walking with a cane, approaching slowly, almost dragging his feet. "Young man, please," said the old man with a voice that sounded like dry leaf breaking. "I have not eaten for days. Could you give me a pear? Just one." The older brother looked at him from top to bottom. Something in his heart wanted to help, but his mind, always calculating, stopped him. "If I give you one, then all the poor people will come here like flies to sugar," he thought. Even so, he plucked two small pears, the ugliest of the tree, and handed them over to the old man. "Take it, old man, but don't come asking for more." "Eh? We also have to eat." The old man, with a smile that seemed to hide something else, took the pears and left, leaning on his cane. The next day, it was the turn of the middle brother. This brother was different, calmer, more of those who see life with serene eyes. While he took care of the pear, he heard a sound. It was the same old man, with his tunic made of rags, who was approaching, shaking. "Good young man, I'm old, and hunger is killing me. Could you give me something from this beautiful tree?" The old man begged, his voice trembling. The middle brother did not hesitate much. He climbed the tree, chose 3 fat and bright pears, and carefully handed them over. "This is all I can give you, but I hope it will be of use to you. God bless you, grandfather." The old man sighed, but this time his smile seemed wider, as if he had just heard something that made him happy that day. The third day, it was the turn of the youngest. This was a dreamer, with eyes full of hope and a smile that seemed eternal. While he watched the pair, humming some nameless melody, he saw the old man appear along the way. "Grandfather!" The young man shouted, running towards him. "What brings you here?" The old man looked up, surprised by the boy's enthusiasm. "Boy, I'm tired and hungry. Could you share something from this wonderful tree?" "Something," the young man repeated, laughing. "Take everything you need." Without thinking, he filled a sack with the best pears, the sweetest and brightest. He even helped the old man carry it. "You don't have to thank me, grandfather. Just come back if you need more." "Yes." The old man said nothing, but his eyes shone with a light that was not of this world. That night, while the brothers were sleeping in their hut, something strange happened. A light, brighter than the sun, filled the room. The 3 woke up startled and saw the old man, but he was no longer the same. Now he had huge wings, white as snow, and a shining tunic. "Don't be afraid," said the angel with a voice that resounded like the echo in the mountains. "I am a messenger from God, and I have come to reward your kindness." The 3 open-mouthed brothers fell on their knees. "Follow me," ordered the angel. The road was long and mysterious. It led them to a magical forest, where everything seemed to shine with a soft light. There, in front of a spring of crystal-clear water, the angel stopped. "Brother, you first. Ask for what you want." The old man, with his eyes shining with ambition, said, "I want the spring of wine instead of water." The angel raised his hand, and the spring began to sprout a red wine like blood. "This is yours," said the angel, "but use it wisely." Then the angel led the group to a clearing where hundreds of white pigeons fluttered. "Middle brother, it's your turn. What do you want?" The middle brother looked at the pigeons and said, "I want these birds to become a flock of sheep." The angel clapped his fingers, and the pigeons became white and fat sheep that fluttered softly. "They are yours now," said the angel. Finally, the angel turned to the youngest. "And you, what do you want?" The young man looked down, thinking, "I don't want riches or goods. I just want to marry a good and Christian woman." The angel smiled. "That will be difficult, but trust in God." With that, the angel led the young man to the emperor's castle, where the king's daughter, a beautiful and virtuous woman, was being proposed by 5 princes. The angel suggested a test. Each applicant had to plant a vine, and the one that gave fruit at dawn would reveal to the husband chosen by God. When dawn came, only the vine of the humble young man was loaded with clusters. The emperor, although surprised, accepted the result, and the young man married the princess. The years passed, and the blessings that had come to the brothers began to reveal their true intentions. One afternoon, in the vineyard of the older brother, a beggar dressed in rags and leaning on a pole approached. His eyes showed hunger and fatigue. "Sir, please, a glass of wine to calm my thirst," he asked with a hoarse voice, leaning slightly. The older brother, dressed in elegant clothes, looked at him with disdain as he gave a sip to his glass. "Wine? For you? Do you think I give the fruit of my effort to anyone? Get out before I call my men," said his tone full of contempt. The beggar observed him for a moment, his gaze loaded with a strange knowledge. Without saying anything else, he turned around and walked away. That night, while the older brother was sleeping, the sound of vines bubbling woke him up. He ran to the deposit, only to find his barrels empty and full of water. He hit the vines with frustration, but the echo they returned was that of his own broken pride. In the vast meadow of the middle brother, an old man with white hair and worn clothes approached the corral at dusk. His voice trembled when he called from nearby, "Good afternoon, good man. I have traveled far and have not eaten in days. Could you share some bread and shelter?" The middle brother, who was counting his sheep, looked at him coldly. "I cannot allow myself to feed extra mouths. What happens if you start stealing from me? Better follow your path before it gets dark." The old man sighed, and with a look of sadness, he slowly walked away. That same night, the middle brother was awakened by a strange flap of wings. When he left, he saw his flock disappear into a cloud of white pigeons flying toward the horizon. "No, wait, return," he shouted desperately, but only silence responded. Meanwhile, in the cabin of the younger brother, one stormy night, someone knocked on the door. The brother and his wife, surprised, looked at each other before opening. At the threshold was a soaked man, bare feet and trembling hands. "Good evening. I'm sorry to bother you, but could you give me shelter for the night?" The younger brother did not hesitate for a moment. "Of course, come in." "You are soaked," he said, taking the man by the arm to help him in. His wife, already lighting the fire, looked at him with a kind smile. "Sit next to the fire. I will prepare some soup, although it is not much." The stranger observed each gesture carefully, thanking with a slight head tilt. "You do not know how much this means to me," he said with shining eyes. At dawn, while the younger brother and his wife were picking up the few utensils they used to serve their guest, a bright light filled the cabin. They ran outside and found that their home had become a palace, surrounded by a garden so beautiful that it looked like another world. In the middle of the wonder, the stranger appeared, but he was no longer an ordinary man. Now he was wrapped in a celestial glow. "Who are you?" asked the younger brother, amazed. "I am the angel who visited the 3 of you. You have shown that the true wealth is not in what is accumulated, but in what is shared. This place will be a reflection of your kindness and your generosity." The wife, excited, took her husband's hand. "We did not expect anything in return, but thanks." "I know," the angel replied. "That is why they are worthy of this gift." Days later, the 2 older brothers, overwhelmed by what they had lost, approached the palace with their worn-out clothes and their faces full of regret. When they saw them, the younger brother did not show anger. "Brothers, there is always a second chance. My home is also yours. If you want to learn what really matters," the older one, with his eyes full of tears, spoke first. "Forgive me, brother. My pride blinded me. The middle one said, with a low voice, "Me too." I thought that fear would protect me, but it only left me empty. The younger brother hugged them, and in that gesture, they began to heal the wounds in their hearts. Since then, everyone has lived more humbly and united, always remembering that a generous heart is never empty. That's all the story for now. And tell me, my dear, which part of the story did you like the most? If you like my videos, check this account where you will find more incredible stories.